This is No Fee TV, where legal help is always free.
Hi everyone, and welcome to No Fee TV, where legal help is always free. For better or worse, it's that time of year again. Freezing temperatures and snow aren't far away, and winter weather has the potential to cause a lot of accidents. Of course, you want to minimize that risk as much as possible, but you also want to be prepared if you would have an accident. To help us with that today is one of the partners from the law offices of Edgar Snyder Associates. Please welcome attorney Cynthia Donnell again. Hi Cindy, how are you?
I'm great, Shal. Nice to see you.
I don't even want to think about this because it's coming. Although I just saw somebody was talking about a forecast today. It should be kind of mild, not a lot of snow, but just in case. I'm assuming you've handled many car accident situations because of the weather.
Oh, we sure have. Bad weather brings two kinds of accidents, basically. Slip and falls or car accidents. In general, that's what we see.
Now, is it just an act of God when some of this stuff happens? I mean, even if it's a slip and fall or, you know, an accident, because what can you do, really?
Well, if it's a slip and fall, insurance companies would like you to believe that it's an act of God, and it's nobody's fault except probably your own. But many people have had this situation where they're take one step and it's black ice, and you can't tell if it's wet or frozen. And if it's a situation where somebody's driving, as we see on the news here, the same situation. If it's black ice and you hit a patch of it, you often don't know that it's black ice. Sometimes black ice is caused by the weather, and there's not much you can do about that. But sometimes it's caused by runoff or improper pooling on the road. And so you drive along and all of a sudden dry pavement turns into black ice, and it's because of an abnormal condition.
All right, I think we have a graphic too, because there are some other causes for this type of thing, for winter accidents. Maybe we can talk about some of those.
Well, probably the biggest mistake that people make in the winter is going too fast. And despite what you see on the side of the road, the speed limit, that doesn't really apply to bad weather. That applies to dry roads. And if it's bad weather, the speed limit is whatever limit you can go and still have control of your car. And as we mentioned before, isolated ice patches are things that occur generally due to an abnormal drainage or a depression in the road, because roads should drain. And if you have an ice patch, it's because that area is not draining. Potholes are another hazard, and people in Pittsburgh are very familiar with potholes. I don't have to go into that to describe what a pothole is.
No, they are not pleasant. And we tend to see those a little bit after the ice and snow have sort of gone away, and we run into that sort of thing later on in the year. Now, what if an accident only involves you and no one else, no other vehicles?
Well, generally, it's your fault if you're in a one-vehicle accident. There are a few exceptions, and I've touched on them. One is if you hit an isolated ice patch, then that is not foreseeable. It's not like it's snowing like crazy and you're the only one going 60 and you spin out, and it's obviously your fault. An isolated ice patch, the reason it's not your fault is because you were unaware of it. And had you known that it was icy in that place, you would have slowed down. But of course, you don't know until it's too late. And sometimes in those cases, you can hold PennDOT responsible if they had bad drainage there, and especially if they had noticed that there were other accidents at that spot, or for, even property owners. A lot of times there's improper drainage off driveways. We see that a lot. People get their driveways repaved and it shunts water right across the road.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about more winter weather safety issues when No Fee TV returns. Welcome back. back to No Fee TV, where legal help is always free. And tonight we're talking with Cynthia Donnell from Edgar Snyder Associates about preparing for winter weather. All kinds of stuff coming our way. So we're going to talk about some of the steps you can take. Should you call police? What happens when you're in an accident first?
Well, if you're in an accident and you're able to call police, you should do so. Hopefully you're not so badly hurt that you can't reach for your cell phone and dial 911. Even if you're not hurt, you should call the police because somebody else may be hurt. And get the police on the scene. They'll do an accident report unless nobody is hurt or there's no property damage that makes a vehicle have to be towed. If everybody can drive away and everybody says they're not hurt, there won't be a report. But at least you have somebody on scene who can take control of the situation.
What information should you get from other people that might be involved in an accident? That's always a big question.
Well, if the police are called to the scene, they're supposed to get that information for you. And even if it's not a reportable accident, they will get the other information from the other driver. Name, address, insurance, policy number, that type of information, and get it from you, and they'll exchange it between the two drivers. It's helpful because sometimes you really don't want to confront another driver.
Oh yeah, I mean, and you don't know, because I mean, I've seen situations where people get out of the car and they're very angry that that the person behind them wasn't paying attention and hit them. So yeah, you never know today. I would think it can be a little iffy.
Exactly. Call the police. Let them handle it.
What about taking pictures? Everybody has a cell phone or something these days that they can take a picture with. Is that always a good idea?
I would definitely take pictures right at the scene. So many times we see cases in the office where a client will come in and they will have their version of how the accident happened. And we talk to the insurance company for the other driver, and they have a completely different version of what happened.
Two sides to every story.
Two sides to every story, and particularly if there is not a police report. For example, if nobody thought they were hurt at the time, but then later on it turns out that somebody was hurt, which is very common. There's very little way to go back and recapture the facts that were there on the day of the accident. So if you have your cell phone, take pictures of the skid marks, pictures of the car damage, take down names of witnesses, and maybe put them in your cell phone, name and number. You never know, you may end up having to use that.
What if you're involved in a one-car accident, so there aren't other people that you need to involve, witnesses really important or not? What are the steps you should take in that case?
Well, if you're in a one-car accident, as I said, 90% of the time it's your fault, and there's not much you can do about it.
No one to blame.
Nobody to blame. Take responsibility, call in your accident to your insurance company, and they'll pay for the damage to your car. However, I mentioned earlier there are a couple of exceptions, and they're pretty big exceptions. And it could be your roadway defects, and in the wintertime, isolated ice patches are the #1 defect. I have one in the office right now where there is a bridge across a roadway, and the bridge drips water down onto the road below. Who would know that?
Who would think? Because they always say that the bridge freezes before the rest of the road, but,
right,
but underneath
it will, sometimes it melts and it will drip water. It's improper drainage on the bridge. And I have a case right now with that. Now, whoever hit that ice patch, they're hitting it, they put the brakes on, and many times people will panic on ice, hit the brake, and you are completely out of control.
Oh, that is the worst feeling too, to put on that brake and know that there's nothing you can do.
Right.
What should you say to the, what should you do when you're filing a claim? Let's go through the steps of what you can expect from your insurance company.
Well, if you're filing a claim with your insurance company because it's your fault in the accident and you have collision coverage on your insurance, you should expect that your agent is going to send somebody out to look at your car, tell you where to take your car to have it appraised, and you're entitled to get another opinion as to whether or not you need a new door as opposed to getting that door fixed or whatever. But if you're injured in an accident, even if it is your fault, you send the bills to your own insurance company, and it's mandatory in Pennsylvania that you have medical coverage on your car insurance, so that's where it should go.
What should you sign, not sign?
Don't ever sign a statement. Don't ever sign an authorization, except for your own insurance company to allow them to get your medical records. If a different insurance company is asking you to sign an authorization that they want to see your medical records, you need a lawyer.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. How do you know when you need an attorney in these situations?
Well, if you feel that the accident was not your fault, and somebody else was involved, and you were hurt, and you're treating, and you went to the emergency room, and maybe you thought you'd be fine, but guess what? You're not fine. And after a week or so, people start to get a very bad feeling that this is not normal, this is not what they expected. They normally bounce back from things. This is different. They're hurt. Something is wrong. And in those cases, you need a lawyer.
All right. When we come back, more No Fee TV, Winter Driving Safety with Cynthia Donnell. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to No Fee TV. Tonight we're talking with Cynthia Donnell of Edgar Snyder and Associates, and now we want to talk about premises liability. Okay, what's that?
That's basically when you are walking down a sidewalk and everybody has their sidewalks shoveled except for this one section in front of one house, and it's a foot of snow that fell a week ago, and it's been tromped on and stepped down and dangerous and icy. That is premises liability in the wintertime. That's one type.
What are your responsibilities then as a homeowner? I can tell you the only reason I shovel my walkway is so that I don't hurt my mailman, because no one ever uses it but him. So what other responsibilities do we have?
Well, most municipalities have ordinances in place, and every single one that I've ever seen says that you must shovel your walkway and salt your walkway to make it passable within 24 hours after the snowfall stops.
Okay, so it has to stop. Okay, because
Yeah.
I was going to say it doesn't do much good. All right, but what if, all right, what about your driveway? Now, for example, and I use the mail carriers because he walks down my, down my steps and then walks across maybe sometimes the driveway to get to the next house. Do you have to be responsible for that too?
The driveway is a gray area. Some people, their driveways really are their sidewalks into their home. I mean, they don't really have a separate, if you want to get to their mailbox, you have to go up their driveway. And in that situation, the mailman is not there for his health. I mean, he's there to do a service for you. So you are particularly responsible for somebody like a gas meter man or a mailman or somebody of that nature.
What if you're away on vacation or you're on a business trip, let's say, and you can't get there to shovel your driveway?
Still responsible. It's up to you to make sure that somebody does it.
Okay. What happens then if someone does get injured? What if you don't follow those rules? What happens then?
Well, slip and falls on ice tend to be very bad, and the reason for it is twofold. But if you trip on something, you tend to fall forward because your foot stubs and you fall forward and you can catch yourself. When you slip on ice, you very often will go backwards. In other words, you will see your feet in the air in front of you. And some of the worst cases I've seen where people have hit their heads. So slip and fall on ice can be extremely bad in terms of severity of injury. Typically, the person whose sidewalk hasn't been taken care of, that property owner is responsible, and you would turn it into your homeowner's insurance and say, somebody fell on my property, would you please handle this?
All right, hold that thought. We're going to take another quick break and we'll talk more about slip and fall accidents when we come back. Welcome back to No Fee TV. We're talking about slip and fall accidents now. Winter weather is just around the corner. Cynthia, what if you fall on somebody else's property and you get hurt because of the snow and ice?
Well, if you're the one who got hurt, the first thing you should do, assuming you can get up, and many times you can't, somebody's going to come along and find you. But it's your first opportunity. You have to notify whoever it is who lives at the address where you fell and put them on notice that they better do something about their sidewalk and that you were hurt there.
How do you, what should you do differently, for example, though, if it's a business that, that you fell?
Well, in a lot of ways, it's the same advice. As soon as you're able, or as soon as you can get your husband to be out there, tell him to go back and take pictures, because I'll bet you by the next day that snow's going to be gone, and the ice is going to be gone, and it's going to be salted, and it's going to look better than it ever did. So have somebody go there and preserve the evidence. That's probably the most important thing I can tell you to do, because snow and ice is not like a broken concrete that's going to be there in a week. The snow and ice is not going to be there in a week, and insurance companies will give you a hard time about it. They will.
Yeah, it's probably so. It is. It's such a difficult thing to prove, to show, and it's always changing. Yeah. So that's a tough one.
It's easier if it's a business property that you fell on, because number one, a lot of municipalities have special ordinances for businesses. You don't get 24 hours after the snow falls. You have 4 hours in some municipalities after the snow stops if you own a business to get that sidewalk clear. And the reason is that if you're telling people to come on in, spend your money, give me your money, then you have a higher duty to keep your sidewalks as clear as humanly possible.
What if you're injured in a place that's maintained by the local municipality or the state, something like that?
That is a different set of laws for that. And the municipalities and the state are all protected, and for the most part they are immune. They are not liable for not shoveling, getting snow off streets and roadways. You're just not allowed to sue them for that. The only exception is for, as I said, isolated ice patches due to something else. Bad drainage, improper curbing that allows water to pool, something like that. But generally you cannot sue a town or a city or the state for failing to shovel or clear with snow plows the roads.
So should you deal with the insurance company then?
It's just, you have to chalk that up to bad luck, that it was a very snowy day, and unless there's an exception for why that road was snow covered, you're out of luck.
All right, then when does it make sense to contact an attorney?
Well, to get back to falling on sidewalks, generally that is a protected area. Sidewalks are made for walking. And generally the municipalities are not responsible for sidewalks unless it's in front of a municipal building. And then they have to do just what everybody else does. They're subject to the same rules. But sidewalks, even though they are public property, are the responsibility of the abutting landlord. That means whoever lives there. And even if you have an apartment building with 4 units in it, the landlord remains responsible for that sidewalk to be shoveled.
Wow, I can't even believe we're getting ready to talk about this. Unfortunately, though, it is coming. Thank you for all the wonderful information, and hopefully people will go to edgarsnyder.com to get more of that. Have a safe winter, Cynthia. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, well, that wraps up this episode of No Fee TV. We want to thank attorney Cynthia Donnell for being our guest today. For more information about the issues that we discussed or for more safety tips, you're going to want to visit edgarsnyder.com. On behalf of everyone here at No Fee TV, we thank you for watching and be sure to be safe this winter.
Thank you again for tuning into this edition of No Fee TV, where legal help is always free. If you have a topic you would like us to cover in a future show, please reach out to us at edgarsnyder.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page or on Twitter and Google Plus using the hashtag NoFeeTV. See you next week.